today we are using the Moonology Manifestation Oracle Deck. I've already chosen the cards for today. And if you are new, how this works is I select the cards intuitively, I keep them face down, I do my reading psychically, and then I kind of have the signal of when I should be flipping them over. And so we will see that together in real time. What I like to do to start off my classes is give everyone an opportunity to practice with your intuition. So I keep the cards covered so that I'm out of my view so that I can't see them. But you can tune into each of the cards for reading number 1 and reading number 2, see what sticks out for you, and then you could listen extra close to whichever one you feel more drawn to. If it's a combination of both, you could look into maybe which life areas they are connected to. So it's just an opportunity to test your intuition. And if you're curious about developing your intuition more, these are the cards for number 2. I do a workshop once a month on Insight Timer, and I also do one-on-one mentoring through my business. So if you're interested in signing up for the class, you can look ahead at my class schedule. And if you are curious about the one-on-one mentorship, feel free to message me with any questions. I can also give you a little blurb overview, and you can also go to my website and look at the different options that I have. So if you are feeling drawn to the first reading or the second reading or a combination of both, feel free to toss that in the chat. So again, this is card number 1. And then the cards for reading number 2. And I'm just going to show them one more time. Number 1. And number 2. So if you feel any particular pull to one or the other, feel free to toss into the chat accordingly. What came through right away was I'm just seeing a visual of somebody holding a green watering can with looks like a daisy on it, and they're just pouring the water out, but they're pouring it on their own head, like they're watering themselves. I'm getting that it's this idea of being replenished. Not rejuvenated or renewed or reborn, but replenished. More in the lines of like refreshed. It's just like when you see a plant and it's just like slightly wilting, you're not necessarily getting rid of the plant. You just, okay, it needs a little sprucing up, or, you spritz it or do something. Similar concept for the metaphors. Like you're going to powder your nose, or it's just like a little touch up. That's the feeling behind this. And is there a particular trigger or reasoning for why we are doing this? It's coming across like it's general maintenance. When I'm asking the question why, what comes through is just pretty simply, we need it, like we're gonna need it. It's a simple task, but it's straightforward enough that we can do it, and it might even feel like it's a heavy lift just to do that, even though it's something so simple. We're walking down a hallway, we're approaching the door, and it's like we just keep pausing. I'm kind of getting 2 versions of this, but the main explanation I can think of is if you ever go to a marathon and they have the water stations, and so then they're kind of going down the hall or, running down the street, and then they just grab a quick water and then they're throwing it. It looks a little bit like that, but we're moving down the hallway and we just got to get quick hydration, like quick replenishing as came in before. And we're just doing these spot checks just like over and over and over again, just in the lead up. it looks like we're overheating. It looks like we have like beads of sweat too. So it's helping us to cool down with whatever we're either getting worked up about, or it doesn't necessarily feel like stressed, like that we're stressed about it, but that we feels like it's like there's a boiling point. So it's when you put a pot of water on, it's simmers, it's at, even if it's at a low temperature, you get to a certain point and then there's a little activity. That's a bit of the feeling that we have. So something is reaching the boiling point. We're going towards something that is increasing intensity. And so it's like the closer we get to it, the more we're kind of sweating, the more we really need that water. But one of the best ways that we can combat the dehydration or our body overheating is starting to drink water now. So I think that's why this is coming across as like this is maintenance. So if you start, this is all a metaphor, or maybe it's not, maybe you need to be hydrated, but that you start drinking the water now, whatever the water is for you, start drinking it now, because then you're kind of getting your body acclimated, or even building the habit of having more. So then it's easier to increase, because if you try to go 0 to 100, it will be really hard or kind of uncomfortable. But if you start drinking the water now, then it will be less of an adjustment to go from, 1 cup a day to 12 cups a day at the peak. Gina said, sending my father's ashes to sea in a ceremony this week. No kidding. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, so then you already know that that's coming. Interesting that you have the water visual as well. And so there is a building of, even for you, it could be, the emotions that are building up. So this is, I think it's important to understand that, I'm getting visuals in a very specific way, but it doesn't mean by boiling point and the person's sweating. It doesn't have to mean that it's stress or that it's anger or frustration. It could just be your emotions, or it feels a little bit less about thoughts and rumination. It's more likely it's on some sort of emotional spectrum, but it doesn't have to be a negative, you know. Tina, intake more water is the main focus in my life at this time. Yeah. Yeah, so Tina, maybe it is literal for you, and for other people, it could just be the metaphor. I haven't even flipped over the card. I was like, oh, great. This, like, we're wrapped up here. This feels good. And I just looked down and went, oh, that's right. I have a card. The perfect card. Perfect. Okay. It would have been even better if it was in Pisces, but this is still a really good one. Last quarter moon in Cancer, take a breather. Number 1, obvious. We had a water visual. This is the cardinal water sign. It's almost like she's becoming one with the water. So she has waded into it. She's embracing it. She has her arms stretched out. She's taking a pause. She is allowing herself to move through and embrace the process. And I think it's interesting here because there was a sense of movement. There was a sense of shift as this week goes on. We're moving down the hallway. We are increasing our intake. Water as medicine, I think, is a nice parallel with it, being take a breather. Obviously, with breath, it's talking about air. But again, we don't literally need to be talking about your water intake this week. It may be the case for you, but it may also be representing something else. And maybe as an example, what you are doing more and more of for maintenance, for helping you to adjust to the intensity that is presenting this week. Maybe you are taking a pause. Maybe you're taking a break. Maybe you are stepping away. Maybe you're moving your body. There could be a lot of different options for what it is that you might be tapping into this week for that replenishment. Oh my gosh, Gina, I'll be wading into the water and swimming with the ashes. No kidding. Wow. Home base. Home base was the first thing that came in. Is this baseball? No. Ancestry? Also no. Um, Finding our center. Thank you. The first one that came in was purpose. The second one that came in was what grounds you. And the third one is like your light, like your essence, your joy. So we are being introspective. We are understanding ourselves. We're not shying away from the insights that we glean because, again, whatever it is that we learn is here to support us. We're getting the lesson at the right time. That's how this is coming through. It's like it's really important that we're hearing this lesson now for the divine timing. All right, and then the first card that we have is the opposite of the one that we have for the first reading. First quarter in Capricorn, unleash your kindest self. I will note here, I don't believe I have pulled either of the cards we have pulled thus far in this reading for myself or for anybody else. So this is kind of interesting. I'm like really taking a look at these cards because I haven't seen them. First quarter moon in Capricorn, unleash your kindest self. What I find fascinating about this, knowing that we're just at the beginning of this second reading, what had come through was your home base. Home we associate with Cancer. That's the sister sign. And finding our center, I'm going to show this card again so you all can see this. Do you see this rock looking like a donut with a hole in it? To me, that feels like that's finding our center. But also this idea, I think, is pretty complementary to Capricorn. Capricorn is very driven, wants to understand and wants to achieve. It's also an earth sign, so the grounding piece does apply. The purpose, the aspiration does apply. And I think, honestly, what Capricorn probably needs the most of is a little bit of that levity and joy, which was option number 3. And we don't need to rush. We can take our time and embrace that light, levity, and joy, unleashing our kindest self. So I think this pretty much checks out. Similar to the first reading, this feels like this is ongoing throughout the entire week. There may be some sort of specific trigger that pops up for you that makes you challenge this, the challenge the being kind to yourself. That feels like it's day 3 or 4, which depending on your time zone is Wednesday, Thursday, maybe Friday. And we have to lean into the grounding practices. We have to lean into the self-compassion, the light, love, joy, laughter. Not be so serious. Be patient. And we can still think about where it is that we want to go, that purpose, that direction, going up the mountaintop. There are lessons just as important on the sea level. That's kind of how it's coming across. So if we're only focusing on getting up the mountaintop, we're missing the offerings, we're missing the gifts, the joys that are available here at the stage that we're at. If we're just always looking up and trying to climb the mountain and trying to chase the purpose, we miss a little bit of the present moment and the peace that we can find just here in the now. Another Saturn ruled sign, we have full moon in Aquarius, be real. So Capricorn and Aquarius are both ruled by, it's tricky because I am at nighttime here. So it's like super washed out. Full moon in Aquarius, be real. It's about authenticity. I think that this pairing is pretty interesting and complementary. One, the obvious being, as I mentioned before, they're both Saturn ruled signs. So they have a focus on creating structure and outcomes and being very intellectual. And what we're being asked to do this week is apply that skill set in a different way. And of course, Aquarius, how it's different from Capricorn is the steady drumbeat, the ambition, the getting up somewhere or maintaining things as they are. And Aquarius is open to tearing the whole thing down to make a system that's better. It's afraid of going outside of the lines, outside of other people's comfort zones, doing something a little bit different. So that authenticity is not being afraid to break the mold that Capricorn wants to set. we can come into this full moon is culmination. So maybe we can grow into a new version of ourselves in the sense of being especially authentic. Maybe the work that we do with being a little bit kinder to ourselves allows us to come out on the other side slightly changed. Again, we're having our systems and then we're making the adjustment. And so maybe the input that we're doing for Capricorn can allow us to come out on the other side. I mentioned this before. So this is the first quarter, which leads up to the full moon. So this does precede this. Also, sign-wise, Capricorn comes right before Aquarius. So these are really piggybacking off of one another. Michelle, I feel like this hits home at a crossroads in relationship and meeting Wednesday to see where we will go. Well, there you go. That makes a lot of sense then. So the reminder is when you have that meeting to make sure that you are kind to yourself in that conversation, that you are kind to yourself after, like whatever is coming up, when you're processing it, when you're thinking about it, not being hard on yourself. I should have said this, I should have done that, or whatever it is. And then that is a really important lesson. And of course, throughout the whole week, we're trying to understand what our center is. So you can choose that route. Say, do I want to focus this week on my purpose or grounding tools? Maybe you find that you need the grounding tool to help you with that conversation. Or maybe that you need to focus on the light, levity, and joy and what you have to offer because it helps you inform how you carry yourself in that conversation. Because it could be, well, I can be a source of my own joy and I can make myself happy regardless of what's happening in this relationship. Just some examples. So you can choose your own adventure in a way, whatever resonates or whatever's sticking out the most, but you have an option to pick what you think is most applicable to your healing. And it comes across like you'll know if you've picked the right one because it will just be reinforced for you. For reading number 1, we had the green watering can, had the daisy on it, and you were pouring the water onto yourself as a way to replenish, rejuvenate. The other metaphor that I had is like you're powdering your nose. It's all about general maintenance. This is happening all throughout the week. And it came across as if this is a very simple task, simple action, something that you are doing repeatedly and increasingly over the course of the week ahead. We're going down a hallway, approaching a door, reaching a portal, and there's a bit of a sense that we are overheating, we're reaching a boiling point, we're breaking a sweat. So in this example, we keep stopping along the way and taking a sip of water and replenishing. And the idea is if we start that process now, then we fare better once we get there because we can handle it a little bit more because we have been hydrating. We have built up our tolerance to be able to drink more and more. Again, this may be literal for you if you need to hydrate, but it also could just be about something else that you're needing to implement. And the card that we got was the last quarter moon in Cancer, take a breather. So again, this is another example. Maybe what you're doing is taking more pauses, taking more breaks, infusing more self-care. And it could be things that are very, very small. And of course, hydration is an example of self-care. But whatever it happens to be for you, just continuing to do that this week, ramping it up over time. Also coming through with this, of course, Cancer is a water sign, cardinal water sign. Healing through water, understanding boundaries. So that could be another component as well. Maybe the small actions that you are taking are just the simple reinforcement of your boundaries. And as the week is continuing, you have to reinforce them more and more and more and more. And it gets uncomfortable by the end of the week. But the more that you've practiced it, like you're actually able to hold a firmer boundary than you would have been at the beginning of the week, as an example. Now for reading number 2, we had home base come in and this idea of finding your center. And the options for finding your center were number 1, finding your purpose. Number 2, grounding or identifying or using tools that help you to ground. And then number 3, identifying your light, your true essence, the joy that you have to offer, or your sources of joy within you. So this is all about looking internally. This is introspection for insights that, as came through, are really important for you to understand right now. Because if you learn these lessons in this moment, this week, then it's going to help for divine timing purposes, like that something will be able to come through or transpire if you do this work. And the first card that came through for the second reading is the first quarter moon in Capricorn, Unleash Your Kindest Self. So through this process, whatever is coming up, we're wanting to achieve. Capricorn wants to go somewhere. It wants to climb up the mountaintop. But we could be a little bit harder on ourselves, take this a little bit too seriously. So we want to make sure that when we're doing this introspection, we're really getting in touch with who we are, what it is that we need, and we are being compassionate about it. Any first quarter or last quarter, we're thinking about reflection. So the introspection is coming through in that way. I also wanted to point out how we had the hole in the rock. So finding your center, we had a circle rock with a hole in it, which was kind of a nice touch. During this week ahead, on day 3 to 4, which depending on your time zone could be Wednesday through Friday, that something crops up that pushes or buttons that challenges you, and that it becomes a practice, what this card is preaching situation. It's an opportunity for you to practice being kind to and supportive of yourself. This feels less like it's about reinforcing boundaries with others and more just, again, not self-love and not self-care in the same way that we were talking about with the first card, but that we're being patient, we are being forgiving, we're being gentle. That's a bit of the energy for when this event transpires. And in tandem with that, we're being encouraged to not fixate on the mountaintop, that point that we want to reach, that place that we want to go, but look at where we are at sea level. Look around us. There are other opportunities there, things that we might be missing because we're looking up and away. And with that, we had our second and final card, the full moon in Aquarius, Be Real. So I mentioned in our earlier discussion that Aquarius and Capricorn are both Saturn rule signs, that we have the first quarter moon, which directly precedes the full moon. And both of the messages on these cards were about how we are relating with and to ourselves. So being kind to ourselves, being authentic. And when we have the whatever lessons that we're supposed to learn this week, we can embody them. So it feels like this is a journey throughout the next 6 to 7 days to get from point A to point B, which of course is what Capricorn wants, but it's through very intentional introspection and understanding of ourselves, kindness, forgiveness, healing, and then we can get to a place of really being in that culmination phase of authenticity. Number one thing that stands out to me just thematically is about our self-care and boundaries. Capricorn and Cancer are sister signs where we have a dichotomy of learning boundaries, but then similarly, Aquarius and Capricorn are ruled by Saturn, focused on establishing, creating parameter systems, boundaries. So there's a bit of an overlap and an intersection. There's a through line from one to the other. Both the first reading and the second reading were giving very, very simple instructions, recommendations for something that you could do to help tend to yourself. So obviously for the first reading, it was like, do that one small thing, increase it as the week goes on. And it's something that will help you to care for yourself more, help you to go the distance of just this week. We're just focusing on this week. It's to navigate whatever it is that's coming up. And then for the second one, it's like we're thinking about the long term. We're thinking about where we want to go. And it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's be in the present moment. Let's be kinder to ourselves. Let's be patient with ourselves. This is a thing that we can do right now. And then this is a tool that is going to really come in handy and will help us in the future. to reimagine who we are, what we have to offer, what we can achieve, full moon. So those recommendations coming through for both of them, it's a lot. Like it's a lot. So it depends on your bandwidth this week. So you could do your very simple action, every day or whatever the cadence is, increasingly as the intensity is building. And those actions could include being kinder to yourself or something else. It feels like the kindness would be paired. It doesn't feel like the kindness is the only thing of just saying something nice to yourself. It seems like if there's an intersection, there's yes and, but you're doing this to help you with shifting your perspective and goal, or maybe even understanding what it is that you need at your core. So finding that center, finding your home base. I mentioned before Cancer often representing the home. So that feels like that's a good intersection. And then again, this second, third card feels like this is more of the end goal of the second reading. So when we're talking about the work that's overlapping, it's more of the first card of each reading. It has to be coupled with something else to like really have the impact, because it feels it just came across like, because then it's actually shallow, like you don't believe it. So it has to be coupled with something so that it actually hits, actually lands, it actually connects and resonates with you, that actually heals you. It has to penetrate the boundaries, the Cancerian hard shell. It just got to be a little extra something with it so that you can actually feel something. And then that you can kind of navigate through it versus being, it has to break the I'll say illusion, whatever it is that you have for yourself, and go, oh, okay, I guess what I was doing wasn't working. Like in order to really reach these two signs, it can't just be, I'm just gonna, each day say like one nice compliment to myself. That feels like it's not enough to meet these two cardinal signs, sister signs, where they need to be to get the lesson.